Welcome to the second lecture of week 5, where we are discussing the cost estimation in social innovation. There are certain estimating methods that we will discuss in this lecture. We have discussed about general what is product cost, what is target costing in social innovation we have discussed. This is a course on social innovation in industry 4.0 and I am Dr. Ramandeep Singh. So, this lecture would go through general introduction about the components of the cost estimation and some cost estimation methodologies. We have discussed about the target costing and the kind of the costing methods in general in the last lecture. Majorly when we try to analyze and estimate a cost in social innovation, the approaches could be top down, bottom up and parametric. Top down means when the total project cost is there, it is broken into smaller components. That is innovative product that I am trying to introduce to the market. So, this is divided into small parts. What is the direct cost of it, what is the indirect cost of it, or maybe what is the direct material cost of it, what is the service cost in it. Each component of the cost is then calculated and accumulated and put together to have the total product cost, that is top down bottom. Bottom up approach, this is where cost of the individual components is first calculated, then these are summed together to make the total cost. In this case, the product to components. In the second case, we have components to product. Parametric costing is using a statistical method to estimate the project cost based upon the predetermined parameters. For example, regression models are there, different analyses are there, multivariate analysis could come, factor analysis, different kinds of the costings which are based upon certain parameters or certain statistics. Methods, these are there in the parametric costing. Now, effective budgeting and resource allocation are essential for the success and sustainability of social innovation projects. Budgeting enables the allocation of financial resources in a structured and strategic manner. Resource allocation ensures that limited resources are optimally utilized to achieve social impact goals. In this case, when I talk about the budgeting, the budget preparation methodologies tailored to social innovation initiatives could be line item budgeting type, activity based budgeting or zero based budgeting. When I say line item budgeting type, this is the budgeting method where list of all the project expenses and their estimated costs are jotted down. List of all project expenses are jotted down. Activity based costing, as I discussed in the previous lecture as well, this is based upon the activities which are planned for the project. So, the cost is allocated to activities, allocated to activities. Zero based budgeting is starting from the scratch each time, each cycle of the product. Generally each year we start from the scratch. Okay, for this year what is the target, for this year distribute the cost of the product to justifying all the expenses. So, this is how the zero based costing is recalculated in each cycle. Generally it is each year. Now, another methods which are there for aligning financial resources with social impact goals, I am just putting them or jotting them down here, so that this terminology, these terms you should know. One is outcome based budgeting. Outcome based budgeting means we set the outcome, we set the goals and allocate resources based upon the likelihood of achieving these goals. So, that is the, I would say, objectives are set. Then cost benefit analysis, this is also one of the analysis that benefit based upon the project cost is determined. It is known as benefit based costing. For example, if you give a product or service to a customer or to a client which helps them to enhance their sale. Let me take the same example, the sale of the milk for the farmers. Now, the sale of the milk is enhanced. Now, the costing for this, the benefit that they get, the number of people they are able to approach, how quickly they are able to get the client, this is the benefit, and the cost based upon this benefit, what is the costing that we try to determine accordingly. This is how the benefit based costing or cost benefit analysis is taken into account. Then ROI is general thing that you know, return on investment, that in what time payback period is there, your investment will be returned back. Return on investment is the period for return on investment, that by in what time the return on investment is taken, after that only the profit adds. This is social return on investment. When I say social return, it measures the social impact and calculates the financial return on investment. So, this is social ROI or SROI. Now, financial sustainability and impact measurement is very important when we talk about the financial management in social innovation. Financial sustainability refers to the ability of social innovation ventures to maintain their operations and generate sufficient resources in the long term. So, this is the key word. So, sustainability analysis is one of the terms for which there various models are there, which I mentioned in the previous lecture as well. Various models for sustainability analysis, for stability analysis are there, statistical models are there, which are used to determine whether the system would remain sustainable for the coming decades or not. The factors that can affect the financial sustainability of social innovation venture could be: number one, cost of the project, that is the project's affordability and operating costs are the part of it. Then there is a revenue model. Revenue model means what is the necessary revenue or that could be generated for the project, or what ongoing funding is there. Then the management team. The management team involves the people, for example, for a startup. Startup could be a few people, few students who have just built up the startup based upon certain idea. Technologically they could be great, but maybe the market experience finally to reach the people, they might be missing that. In that case, mentors are always there. Mentors are people who are well versed with what are the products of this kind and how do the customers respond to these kinds of innovations. So, their suggestions are very important. So, from the very amateurs to the experienced people are there in a management team, which helps us to have a financial sustainability in the social innovation and in the impact measurement of the social innovation. Now, evaluation of social innovation and ROI. Social impact evaluation aims to assess the positive change created by social innovation projects in addressing societal challenges. Techniques for measuring social impact include qualitative methods and quantitative methods both. When I talk about the qualitative methods, these are generally the methods in which quality information is taken, whether this product is liked, yes or no. So, what are the more inputs to this product? Subjective answer could be there. So, this means these are generally surveys. Surveys are very general thing. When you have a specific set of the questions to be answered, then it could be one-on-one interviews as well. Quantitative methods are the data analysis methods in which various techniques are used. These techniques are generally statistical techniques when secondary data is available. Qualitative method, when I am mentioning, I am talking about surveys and interviews where primary data is generated. when data is available and only we need to employ or use this data to have a forecast upon what our financial plans for the future should be. So, these forecasting methods, these methods of regression, these methods of correlating to the past outputs or outputs for the similar products, maybe for the same products in a similar kind of environment, maybe for the same products in a different country, then these are all calculated using quantitative methods, and some of the methods we will also discuss in this lecture. ROI helps us to analyze or quantify the financial benefits and social value generated by the project. Now, this is return on investment in general that we are talking about, and we are also trying to connect it to social impact. So, when we are trying to connect it to social impact, this is known as social ROI. Social ROI is nothing but social value generated by an organization or project relative to the resources which are invested. In this case, also impact reporting and investment standards, IRIS plays an important role because it also helps us to have a financial control strategy. So, it helps us to fix a specific target and try to work upon it. There are certain indicators which are important when we are talking about the measurement of social impact, that is, what changes in quality of life is it bringing. This is something that is qualitative, but we can convert the qualitative data also into quantitative form if we put that in maybe using a Likert scale. Like for example, in Amazon, if an innovation is there, they ask the people, do you like this innovation? Like and dislike could be extremes, then partially like, partially dislike, neutral, there could be 5-point scale in that. In this way, we can convert the qualitative data like and dislike using a 5-point or 7-point or maybe 9-point scale to the quantitative data. So, this is how changes in quality of life is taken into account. Also, certain other methods like interviews, surveys are always there to understand what is the social impact of the product that we have introduced. Environmental outcomes. Whenever we talk about sustainability of a product, now in this case the word sustainability, I am talking about ecology. The word sustainability in general is how well is your system able to retain in future as well, whether financially would it be able to sustain or not. Otherwise, if I talk about the word sustainability nowadays, it is used from the green manufacturing viewpoint, it is used from the environmental viewpoint, it is used from the ecology viewpoint. From that impact, one of the major inputs in sustainability analysis is environmental impacts. Always when we say 3 P's of sustainability, it is people, profit and planet. Planet means you have many fixed number of resources within your earth, within your planet, keeping the resources intact, not to use them in a way so that the future generations are not able to use them with the same fun that we are able to do. So, this is sustainable analysis. That means environmental impact has to be positive, it should not be negative, or if not positive, it should be neutral. So, environmental outcomes, that is, have we reduced the pollution, or have we reduced the energy consumption, or have we reduced the material consumption, these 3, energy, pollution and material, are the major factors of it. If not these, what is the extent of the renewable energy that we are using? Then what is the extent of the biodegradable material that we are using? These are all questions which come into environmental outcomes viewpoint. Community engagement, what is the employment that you are generating? Employment index, majorly if I talk about the word happiness, That is a key word for societal impact. Happiness, how people are happy to have their community engaged in the system. So, these are the major indicators. We can have indicators in different forms at different scales to have these indicators to have finally an assessment of what sustainable impact is. This all could be taken into account. Then communicating social impact, that is also important, which includes enhancing the transparency, because we are talking about the people, we are talking for the people, we are talking for the benefit of the society. Transparency helps the people to understand what we are doing and how it is benefiting them. There are multiple websites, whatever the social innovations are there, those are showcased in a proper way, so that it reaches maximum people and people appreciate them. If there are certain drawbacks or certain loopholes in them, people do report them, which are tried to be covered in the forthcoming versions of the product. So, that is why transparency is very important. When we have a transparency with the clients, with all the stakeholders within your internal customers are your own employees itself, then it builds credibility. Credibility of the product, when it is built, then people are willing to pay for that, willing to pay maybe out of their pocket, they are even willing to pay extra for that as well, if they understand that this is something that would benefit the society, that would benefit them, that would benefit their future generations, that would benefit the nation, the global index, the global picture in the overall. It engages the stakeholders, majorly whomsoever investors are, though engaging stakeholders means all the stakeholders, as I talked about, internal clients, the customers, the investors. Investors, majorly the goal of the investors is to have the profit, though sometimes the funds do come from the CSR, that is the corporate social responsibility funds, in which they only invest to enhance some societal benefits. Now, though they are still concerned, the stakeholders would invest into the products which they think are transparent, which have credibility in the mind of the clients. That is why they come into the business and they try to introduce or they try to get more involved into the product. Now, financial sustainability strategies could be many. In successful social innovation initiatives, diversification of fund resources is important, that is mix of grants, donations, because in case one of the stakeholders or one of the investors or one of the group of investors, if they may be backstep or they stop funding you, might have or you should have some other sources of income from different resources. Then we have impact investments here, then we have earned income. Earned income streams, which is also put as a separate initiative for financial sustainability of the system, which means generating revenue through sales, servicing, and suppose if one of our products is quite successful in the city of Kanpur itself, I am able to reach the people within UP. I can maybe license it to some other person who is in Bihar, who is in Punjab, who is in Maharashtra. So, licensing of the product is also important, or one of the ways to have the income streams here. Collaborations and partnerships, because 1 and 1 makes 11. We might be well versed with the technology that we have developed, with the innovation that we have created, but there are certain people who have big name in the society. Through them, if we go, collaborations would help us to reach more people. Or we might be someone who might have a different connects. For example, IIT Kanpur has different connects to their own alumni, CSR people to come us for different fundings. Then we need to have collaborations with the certain startups who have innovative ideas. So, collaborating them together into one pane and try to have something that is known as synergy. So that the different partners have shared costs and shared benefits. sustainable business models, that means integrating social and financial goals for self-sustainability. Now, these strategies promote financial sustainability, enabling social innovation initiatives to achieve long-term impact and resilience. Now, costing considerations play a crucial role in assessing the social impact value for money and social innovation projects. So, this is where we are going to just shed a quick light over social impact assessments. Social impact assessment means understanding and analyzing the costs incurred in delivering social impact, which helps in evaluating the project's effectiveness and efficiency. What is effectiveness and what is efficiency? These two terms seems to be very similar, where they have different meanings. We will try to discuss about that in the coming lecture, where effectiveness is something how effective, how many people are willing to use your product. Efficiency is something what is the efficiency of the product in the terms of the quantified output, what is the efficiency of your product or what is the percentage of income that is increased, what is the number of maybe if it is sustainability or ecological viewpoint of the product, what is the amount of pollution or percentage of pollution it has reduced in this area. So, this is all efficiency. Effectiveness is to what probability, to what extent is this successful, that is effectiveness. Now, costing considerations enable a comprehensive assessment of resources invested and outcomes achieved. Now, next we need to discuss about the factors that influence the cost estimation in social innovation. Cost estimation in project management is a process of forecasting the financial and other resources needed to complete a project within defined scope, which means the costing is within a scope. The scope means the scope is the time frame within which the product is to be completed, the scope is the budget within which project is to be completed, within the area where you are working, everything comes under scope. Cost estimation accounts for each element required for the project, each element from materials to labor, and calculates a total amount that determines a project's budget. Now, in cost estimation for social innovation projects, several factors significantly influence the overall financial assessment. There are certain factors which we will discuss in this lecture. For understanding and considering these factors, it is essential to ensure accurate and effective cost estimation method. These factors include the project scale. When we talk about project scale, it is the size of the project, scope of the project, magnitude of the impact that we are trying to put here. Then we have resource requirements and staffing implications. Resource requirements means what are the materials required, what is the land that is required. For example, if you are trying to introduce a product where you will have to just collect the waste or maybe segregate waste into different components, biodegradable and non-biodegradable, then you try to landfill the non-biodegradable waste into the different landfill sites, and the biodegradable waste is converted into the biodegradable form. Maybe the fuel is used to develop agarbatti. These kinds of innovations do come into play. And what is the total resource requirement and staffing implications? If it is a website or so, if it is a staff intensive project, for example, more number of people are required to reach people, then staffing implications are always there. This is the project scale on what is the total number or total size of the project that you are trying to develop. Complexity of the project is also one of the important factors which is to be always thought of when we are trying to talk about the cost estimation. Intricacy of activities and technical challenges, that is the nuances of the activities if those involves some data from the neighboring countries, or if involves some data from the people, maybe some private data from the people, maybe for example, if you have developed a vaccine for AIDS, you need to see the people who are hit by this disease. People sometimes are not willing to disclose those. So, what is the intricacy of the activities and technical challenges? If you have developed an application or if we have developed a software which is used by the farmers who are working for many years in their traditional process, how willing are they? Technically, how educated are they to understand, okay, this is a green button on your Android app, this is a red button on your Android app, you reach them, then languages to be given to them, Hindi language, maybe Marathi language in Maharashtra, maybe Tamil in Tamil Nadu. So, different kinds of languages are to be put there. So, these technical challenges are always there. Coordination costs for multi-stakeholder projects is always there, so that the project cost estimation is taken efficiently. Now, target beneficiaries is also one of the important factors when we talk about the project. That means diverse needs and resource allocation variations, as I just mentioned, the language requirements for the different communities in different parts of the country. So, those are there. Inclusivity efforts for marginalized communities. Inclusivity means inclusive development, when the people who are difficult to reach, or the unserved areas, or the underserved areas, or the underserved categories, those are all targeted upon. I mean, those are targeted, the marginal communities, how well are they served using the application or using the product that we have developed. This becomes one of the cost estimation or the factors that influence the cost estimation. Geographical location. There are certain geographical locations, for example, in Kashmir, in the chilling areas, there are certain requirements there for maybe a social innovation is there, that a person has developed a shoe with a heating sole using battery. This heating sole shoe would be used only in the areas where the temperature is less than -20 degrees. So, they are reaching to the people or making the people aware of this product is there, or making the product reach them is a challenge. Or maybe in the areas of Himachal Pradesh, even when the hilly areas they are there, or maybe in the remote areas, maybe in the south where where quite remote, or maybe tribal populations are there. So, those areas are sometimes difficult to reach. So, regional cost disparities and factors do come into play for this. In this case, the people who are marginalized or who are there already in the remote areas, the costing for the product might have to be discounted for them, and the people who are in urban areas, if they are using the similar product, the costing strategy or the costing method could be different. Now, logistics and operational considerations. Logistics, when we talk about the location, logistics, that is the travel, the transportation, even the communication. This all comes into play when we are talking about the operational considerations of the innovation that we have developed. Duration and timeline. Time frames impact on cost is very important. If you run out of time, the product sometimes loses its overall essence. So, maybe the similar product would come by a competitor, or maybe people not even maybe appreciate the product that is not able to give them specific output within a specific time. The same example I am coming to time and again. For example, this milk distribution application, if there are certain loopholes, certain changes which are required in that app, those should be rectified within a day or within 2-3 days, because if 4 or 5 times the farmers are not able to find finally the thing effective, they will stop using it. So, time frame or impact costs are very important. Adjustments for inflation or currency fluctuations if you are working across nations. So, then converting the dollar into rupees, or maybe rupees into euros or so, or maybe into yen, it depends upon how the currency fluctuations are effective and what kind of products are you trying to pose there in different parts of the world. Risk assessment. Risk assessment, that is the contingency reserves for potential risk. That is why always risk costs, the contingency costs are always there when you try to even apply for grants, for donations or so, the contingency part is always there. Mitigation planning for uncertainties. Uncertainties are always there, and what we are trying to understand overall in this course is to deal with uncertainties majorly. Social innovations is something that people are doing, developing something that is of societal benefit is okay, but because it is an innovation, innovation is something people sometimes do not understand on the first hand. So, they are to be aware of what kind of uncertainties could be there. So, mitigational planning for the seen uncertainties should be there. Last point here is technology and innovation. That is where we have industry 4.0 as in the title of this course, the upfront expenses and long term efficiencies. If we are using a technology which is using a 4G internet that can use industry 4.0, 5G internet is also coming into play. If this technology is to be used in the remote areas in Kashmir, they only have the 2G and 3G network. So, it has to be planned, it has to be designed accordingly. Now, upfront expenses and long term efficiencies, the way that technology is changing, the way the even social websites are changing, each 6 months the previous technology is outdated. So, long term efficiencies using the cloud computing, using storage of data on cloud, using the retrieval of data at any point, any place, that is very important. That is why technological intervention for social innovation is of utmost importance nowadays. Strategic investments for sustainability and scalability. Scalability means you have a product that has reached for market today, it could be a subset of the bigger market, it could be for the subset of a complete country which can globally go later. So, scalability of the product. So, something that is now 50 could turn into 500, could turn into 5,000, could turn into 50,000, so on. That is important. Whenever you design a product, the product has to be designed in such a way it is not only for the few people, it is for the masses of the people, and it should be transferable into different parts of the country, of the world. That is how the systems are designed. That is where the technological intervention industry 4.0 plays a big role. Now, having talked about the factors influencing the cost estimation in social innovation, there are certain challenges to these innovations or these considerations that we are talking about. If I talk about the challenges, the first challenge is uncertain outcomes. When I say uncertain, as I talk about uncertainty, it requires innovative measurement methods for non-monetary impacts. If you have developed an app to reach the client, client refuses to take the milk, he say the milk is stale. This is a non-monetary impact that is not even determined prior. So, there could be uncertain outcomes as well. Then changing stakeholder needs, for example, evolving requirements necessitate continuous engagement to adjust cost estimates throughout the project. Stakeholders might also require an additional information on that, okay, along with milk, I would also like to sell my small products out of my small farm. I will have to sell sugar, I will have to sell haldi, I will have to sell maybe jaggery. So, these things could be an additional part of it. Limited historical data. When lack of extensive past cost data is there for novel solutions, when we need to rely on the analogous projects or external sources of the data. Then ethical considerations, though we are trying to put something for the benefit of the people, but there are sometimes certain sensitive issues which includes the ethical cost allocation as well. That is, we need to respect the privacy, the consent of the people, the cultural norms, everything is to be taken care of. So, ethical considerations play very important role, and this is also a challenge when we talk about the social innovation cost estimation. Then comes the resource constraints. Resource constraints means balancing impact aspirations with limited budgets, calls for innovative cost effectiveness strategies. So, when impact aspirations are high, but the budgets are limited, then resource constraints are always there. Multiple metrics for success. So, when we incorporate diverse indicators beyond the financial returns even, it requires a comprehensive or detailed understanding of the project goals. So, multiple metrics of success are there which can be reduced. For example, if you have developed and you have found that there are maybe 20 variables which are contributing to the product, then using a factor analysis we can maybe transfer them into 6 factors. 6 factors, this is known as factor analysis. Means for each of the variables the common factor would be there taken out of them, and this 20 is converted into fix. So, multiple metrics of success are always there. So, which should be taken into consideration in the beginning, but later for the calculation we cannot calculate in a regression model or maybe in a deterministic model all the 20 variables sometimes. So, we need to have 6 significant variables or the 6 variables which are representative of all the 20 variables used. Adaptability and flexibility, which means cost estimation must accommodate changing circumstances. And it could be revisable as new information arise at each point. Now, key components of the cost estimation when we talk about the personnel cost and salaries. So, estimating personnel cost and salaries include the budgeting and cost estimation for social innovation projects, which is we try to estimate the salaries, benefits and volunteer management in order to have efficient resource allocation and successful project implementation. In this case, when we talk about the salaries and the personnel cost, what are salaries? It determines the roles, responsibilities and expertise for appropriate salary estimation. For example, coder could be one person, then programmer could be another person. Then the administrator, system analyst could be another person. Then at the top the financial manager could be another person. Then CEO of the company could be another person. So, one person could even take 2 roles, coder and programmer could be the same person, or maybe system analyst and the programmer could be the same person. So, sometimes these roles are given to different persons and accordingly the salaries are given. Then comes benefits. Benefits which include health insurance, retirement plans, allowances in cost estimation, all these are taken. These are considering the impact on an employee satisfaction and retention, maybe some awards are to be given, some gratitude is to be given to the employees, though the salaries are basically determined by their roles, their qualification, their experience or so, but benefits are also something people do get attracted to when they need to join a company. Then volunteer, the cost of providing them with training and support, that is training on the project's goals, project's objectives, the overall company's objectives, the procedure and support like access to mentors, training material, resources, their recognition, all of them are to be considered when we try to have a volunteer costing in this case. Now, key components of cost estimation, that is the material and equipment cost. Material and equipment costs are essential components of cost estimation for successful project implementation. Properly estimating these expenses ensure that necessary resources are available to achieve project objectives effectively. Process of estimating material and equipment costs for social innovation includes: number 1, to identify required materials; number 2, price research for equipment and materials, quantity assessment and cost benefit analysis. Number 1 is identify required materials, which means to create a comprehensive list of materials including consumables, non-consumables, number of computers, the kind of the computer, the RAM required for that. If you are trying to develop an app, if you are trying to develop a product, maybe a product that has more biodegradable part, maybe you need to develop a pencil which has maybe a seed at the end. If you sow this pencil or throw this pencil later upon, then wherever it goes, this seed, maybe tulsi seed or some other seeds are put into there, which grows into a plant. To manufacture this pencil, you need a machine, the cost of that machine, material for the manufacture of pencil, all those things are put into the list. Then price research for equipment and materials, from where the equipment is to be taken, the quotations are to be taken from different vendors, or we need to conduct a market research for that, and also quality comparison is important. Quantity assessment, what is the quantity required for the specific material or equipment, considering contingencies to avoid underestimation. Overestimation is also not allowed, because if you spend more money which is not even required, if we have 10 computers purchased and only 6 of them are in operation, 4 computers are invested upon, and this investment is going waste, though the return on investment is there to be calculated for all the investment for the 10 computers that you have done. So overestimation and underestimation should both be avoided. Cost benefit analysis means evaluate the cost effectiveness and balancing the quality and price of the product. Then comes the research and data collection. Research and data collection are integral to evidence based decision making. That means an educated or knowledgeable decision is to be taken whether to come up with this innovation and who are the target customers, what is the target number of this kind of the innovation that we have. Estimating the costs associated with these activities is essential to ensure reliable and accurate project outcomes. Process of estimating research and data collection costs for social innovation includes research methodology that is being used, sample size and target population, data collection tools and technology, research personnel. Let us try to see each of them in this slide. Research methodology. Research methodology means the objectives and suitable methodologies to research what is the requirement of the client, what is the time for the research, what are the total resources in research that we are trying to inculcate here. Consider complexity and expertise required, that means whether the researchers has to be person who is well versed with the overall use of the product, or only the final use phase is one the person should be able to aware of. Sample size and target population. Sample size means the number of people whom you need to reach. We cannot do the census kind of the survey all of the time. Census survey is 100% population. If we need to reach the target population, population when I say is the word, the number of clients you need to reach is 5,000, you might have to pick maybe 50 people whom you need to interview to understand what product or what research is required in this product to be developed. So determine the statistically significant sample size. There are certain methods to determine the sample size. So it is denoted by small n, the sample size, the population size is capital N when we talk about the statistical notations here. These account for target population characteristics. Data collection tools and technology in industry 4.0, big data analytics plays a vital role nowadays. In decision support systems, when we have big data, the data is available in multiple forms, we need to put the data in the proper form and we need to have the informed decisions. The data, certain models are there, certain analytics models are there. The predictive models helps us to understand what the data is, what is the mean, median or forecast of the model. Then we have deterministic models, then we have the prescriptive models as well, where the prescriptions comes, okay, for this data these kinds of the things could come. The hypotheses are designed or laid down and those are tested upon. So data collection tools are to be taken, certain tools and softwares which the GUI should be understood by the people who are using them. GUI is graphic user interface. Consider specialized technology needs which are there. Research personnel. So we need to estimate the hiring or agency expenses. If we need research personnel, we cannot sometimes find the person who could be retained for some time. The hiring agencies have a lot of people with them. So in the loop or in the pool that they have, they give you the people as per your requirement. So their expenses are also there. So we need to consider all of them. Then we need to include the training and logistical costs also in this. Then comes the infrastructure and facility costs. Infrastructure and facility costs are associated with physical space and equipment that will be needed to operate the social innovation project. Infrastructure and facilities are critical elements in the successful implementation of social innovation projects. Estimating the cost associated with acquiring and maintaining these assets is essential to ensure smooth operations of the project. In this, certain factors that play a role are identifying required infrastructure, that is, we need to determine the necessary structures, the equipment, the technology which is required to develop the product or the innovation that we have. Construction and acquisition costs, that is, estimate the expenses for building or acquiring infrastructure. Finally, acquisition cost or the construction cost is a major cost that is there for the infrastructure. Then renovation and adaptation, if we have taken an existing facility, then renovation of this facility to the structure that we require or adaptation of this facility to our own specific requirements, that is always a cost that is included in. Maintenance and repair, that is ongoing maintenance expenses, or if we have hired a facility or if we have if we are using an existing facility, maintenance and repairs of that facilities plays an important role. That means these are the part of the costing or the expenses. Then comes utilities and operating costs. Utility and operating cost means the washrooms, kitchen, the pantry, the electricity overheads, maybe a restroom. So, all these parts are part of the utility and operation costs here. Then come the communication and outreach expenses. Communication and outreach expenses are the costs associated with communicating with stakeholders and raising awareness of social innovation project. Estimating the cost associated with communication efforts ensures effective dissemination of project information. It fosters meaningful connections with target audiences. There are certain factors. Stakeholders engagement strategies are there, marketing promotional materials are there, digital marketing is there when we are talking about communication and outreach, events and workshops are there, public relations and media relations are there, digital tools and communication platforms are there. In stakeholder engagement strategies, the tailored communication for target audience is always there. Tailored communication. Then marketing and promotional materials, that means designing and producing these materials also include costs. Digital marketing means online platforms, and using these online platforms, the social media marketing also plays, in which the cost of the people who are working in this social media marketing. And when you are using a social platform, sometimes you might have to pay them a license fee or a use fee. Then events and workshops, to organize these events and workshops, to make people aware of, to maybe create a voice for your product, the gatherings, community sessions are to be organized. So, these also include costs. Public relations and media relations, to engage PR firms, to engage the media outreach firms, which helps you to portray your products into the media, that is also a cost included. Then digital tools and communication platforms, that means the software and tools for effective communications which are there nowadays. Certain tools are used, for example, WhatsApp is free. There are software such as Slack, there are software such as Asana, which helps you to communicate with the people through different platforms. There are certain softwares which helps you to with a premium version of them, you can have more access to them, maybe LinkedIn itself. So, digital tools and communication platforms also have cost inculcated in them. To summarize this lecture, we have discussed the cost estimation is a critical process that involves predicting the financial requirements of a project, understanding the scope, objectives, potential risks is essential for successful cost estimation. The key components of cost estimation which are discussed in this lecture are personnel and salaries costs, material and equipment costs, and what are the factors which influence or what are the components of these costs, these are discussed. Research and data collection costs, infrastructure and facility costs, communication and outreach expenses. With this, lecture 2 of week 5 is completed. We will meet in the next lecture. We will try to discuss about the methodologies for cost estimation in social innovation. Thank you.